We are back for another episode of Black Girls Vibe. Andrea Ford, how goes it?
Hey, Michelle Clement.
We're being awfully formal today with our, fancy digs on and whatnot. You want to tell the peoples? Your lighting is better than mine. You want to tell the peoples what we got going on here?
Yeah, so we are both members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and also subscribers to the Ivy, what is it, Ivy Storehouse,
That's right.
where we receive a monthly box of goodies.
Of goodies.
And so this wonderful apparel that we are wearing today was in our February box.
Indeed.
So we're
So
sporting it
we decided
for,
to sport for the folks,
here we go.
giving, very much giving, as the box alludes to, coming to America, Queen to Be vibes. So we got it. I mean, there's been a lot going on sports wise since we last chopped it up.
Yeah, who knew, right?
Who knew? You have any particular place you want to start?
Oh goodness.
It's so much.
It is. Ooh, okay. Should we start with basketball and
Sure.
collegiate basketball?
Let's do it.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, Otherwise known as March Madness, but only if you're referring to the men's tournament.
So we'll start there.
Shall we?
Right. Also known as the men's tournament.
The men's tournament.
Yeah.
So jokes aside for a second, and we can talk about we can talk brackets as well, obviously. Mine are busted, essentially, because in just about every one, I had Illinois being in the Final Four, so there's that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think mine was, well, it's not in the trash, but I didn't print it. But
But it could be.
it could be if I had the printable version, the app version.
Same. Same.
Did not
Yeah.
fare thee well.
No. So it kind of takes the pressure off, though. Just watching for fun now. Watching for
That's
fun.
it. That's
I
it.
had and I do multiple brackets, just kind of contemplating different scenarios, and in almost every instance, it's the same final projected winner. In this instance, it was Gonzaga. I think
Mm-hmm.
I may have had one bracket with Bama taking it all. And on the women's side, I just sentimentally I went with South Carolina and Coach
Yeah.
Staley.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
The same.
But yeah, my men's bracket, all 15 of them, all my iterations are trash.
Say in no scenario.
I didn't have Loyola.
No.
I didn't have,
Oral Roberts.
Oral Roberts. And who was the other big upset?
Oh.
I know North Texas went further than I didn't have them. Yeah, so we're just off the grid now. We're off the grid. It's unusual to have a year in which Kentucky and Duke don't make the tourney, and UNC gets tossed out in the first round. UNC is my team, but I had them getting tossed out in the first round. I held no delusions around how far I thought they could go in this tournament. I thought they were lucky to be invited.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just have to go, you put that loyalty aside and it's like, well, because you've watched them play the whole season and nothing says they're going to make a
They're
run
gonna
in
make
this
a deep
tournament.
run. Nothing
Mm-mm.
said. Nothing.
Mm-mm.
Nothing said that.
No.
Nothing said that.
No.
And before we go back to the women's tourney, men's tourney, inequities piece, which will probably largely drive our conversation today, I know two of your schools. Two out of the three did their thing and made the dance. So
Yes,
you've got to be super proud of that.
I am. So yes, I will say shout out Hoya Saxa and go Jackets.
Yeah. And I had one alma mater make it, and they got unexpectedly defeated.
They were an Oral Roberts casualty, if I
They sure were. Go Gators.
okay. It was a low.
What do you do?
Like yeah.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.
So yeah. So it's always cool when your alma mater or alma's mater in your case make it, and there's just so much excitement around that. But yeah, so maybe next year. And shout out to Patrick Ewing and what he's doing at Georgetown. I know you've got to be, as a lifelong basketball fan, you've got to be, who I imagine, we hadn't discussed Patrick Ewing extensively, but I imagine you've followed him since his career at Georgetown.
Yeah, I did kind of later, and then right into when he entered the NBA. So yeah, it's really nice to see him follow in the footsteps and carve his path and return back to his alma mater and make some. Well, they didn't get out the first round, but still to get back into the tournament.
To get into the tournament. Yeah. And in just months after John Thompson's passing, has a nice poignant symmetry to it.
Yeah, it does. And I can't think of the last time Georgia Tech was in the tournament either. So, but no, the Patrick Ewing story and playing at Madison Square Garden. So
notwithstanding that little kerfuffle where he got stopped and checked for ID.
Who are you?
This is my house. Are you kidding me? I loved his response. You don't know who I am?
Like,
okay,
right. Then. It's like
okay.
Sometimes you don't want to throw that out, but in his case,
but
totally
it was
understand
completely appropriate.
Right.
I was not mad at him for doing it.
No,
I wasn't mad at him for doing it at all.
You don't know me, so yes.
So the men's tournament versus the women's tournament. We know that this year is unusual in that the respective tourneys, instead of having first round and regional play happen kind of at locations throughout the country, but the respective tourneys are all happening in one location: Indianapolis for the men's, San Antonio for the women's.
Right.
And I think it was last Thursday, we started to see a TikTok video done by and I don't know which women's basketball player and which team, but posted a video capturing the conditions at their tournament and juxtaposing that to the conditions at the men's tournament, specifically with regard to the weight room. And there are pictures all over the internet. For those who haven't seen it, it's easily Googled. But the men's weight rooms looked like what you would expect the NCAA to set out for a men's tournament on that scale. Women's tournament having the same number of teams, 64, their weight room, as you put it, Andrea, wasn't even as well equipped as your home gym.
Correct. Yeah, because what was it like? The little the stackable,
it was a rack of
dumbbells?
Stackable dumbbells and some type, and a table, maybe for massaging or working out. That was it.
And that's it.
Until the spot got blown up and shame placed on the NBA and the NCAA and the coordinators for the tournament. And as a result of that inequity being exposed, we've learned of countless others. I mean, from the type of food that's prepared, the spread that the men are given versus what are nice packaged meals for the women, but not comparable to the spread, set out that the men are getting.
Right.
The perks and the swag differences. I think one of our followers yesterday posted an article about even the COVID testing being
Oh
different.
yeah, I
That the
saw
women
that. I
were getting
didn't.
the rapid test, the less reliable rapid test,
Hmm.
and the men were getting the more reliable PCR.
Like the COVID testing.
I mean, you talk about penny wise and pound foolish. And most, perhaps most disturbingly, uh, and more from a systemic structural standpoint, the fact that the NCAA only applies or only allows to be applied the March Madness term or brand to the men's tournament. And
Hmm.
that brand is not associated with the women's tournament. And so you're not going to see the big March Madness decals on the floor at the court at a women's tournament game because they aren't a part of March Madness, if you can imagine that. And the fact that that's been intentional.
Right. And I don't think that I ever
Picked up on that?
realized that.
Right.
No,
I hadn't
until
either.
because it's like when I hear March Madness, I automatically think of both. Like it's just college basketball
That's
into the
right.
tournament. I've never
Right.
made the distinction that March Madness is solely associated with the men's tournament.
Right. Right. And I think that was the intention. Like they wanted us to think that they were on equal footing, but from an investment standpoint and a marketing standpoint, what we're learning is the same amount of juice wasn't being put behind the women's tournament as was the men's tournament.
Hmm.
Um, which leads us to like this broader discussion around like inequity in sports, gender inequity in sports, and how this is just such an encapsulation of that. Like it's almost like the perfect storm, and it's also so interesting that it comes out in such an unusual year in sports. Like of all the years and perhaps it's because of COVID that
Hmm.
it presented the right set of circumstances for these things to be revealed.
Right.
Um, so I don't know what we'll see what tournaments going forward look like. I mean, it looks like we're in an age in which shame can be a large motivator, and it
Well,
feels as though the NCAA has been sufficiently shamed by these revelations.
mhm.
But what was your reaction to
Well, that's what I
all
was
of
going to
this?
say. Because didn't they go back after the pictures for the women's weight room, and then came back and did it up real nice and made it comparable somewhat to what the men's, which is what it should have been. So it's like we don't work out as women athletes. Like we don't that that stackable dumbbell set was sad, and I
It
didn't know
was,
what that table was, but that's sad.
yeah.
And it's like we can't even have an equal COVID test.
That's how insidious like these structural inequities are. And I think it can be hard to the naked eye, like it can be hard to discern for the naked eye until like they're brought out and teased out. Because
Yeah.
we would have been told as like the consumers, oh well, all the players are getting COVID tested, assuming that everybody was getting the PCR, the more reliable. We're not even going to talk about the safety implications of giving women the less reliable test.
Right.
Forget just the lack of equity. Like as a standalone, it's unsafe to give them the less reliable test.
It's
Um,
unreal. It's unreal. But I agree with you there. Like I think COVID, the fact that there is so much focus and that they are playing in one location instead of being scattered at all these different cities and then being brought to the final city for the final four. I think that has definitely been one thing to highlight and put more focus on, and where we are, right? And the fact that we are as women getting, well, we have been vocal, but just kind of still following that same trend of the female activism and just standing up and calling out like this just isn't,
mhm.
we're not receiving the same or even anything nearly comparable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And really putting, so yeah, it's a shame though that it took that, and like you said, it being the spotlight for the NCAA to come back and say, oh, let me, make these changes and push that out. Like, oh, look at what we did. Well, that gym could have been the same from the beginning. It didn't necessarily need to get, and I know that's just, one of the many, many, many examples, but it's like we can't have the same
Yeah,
food.
we can't have. The gym was really that visual spoke volumes to me because it's kind of emblematic of the issue. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just that we're not getting the same; we're not getting anything close to it.
It's like somebody just picked that up at the neighborhood Target or at the house
Right.
and
Like,
brought it
ooh,
to the
like they
facility.
said, ooh, I meant to stop by and get the equipment for the gym. Let me, go get this set from Target.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, well, they were at Target. They saw the table. It's like,
Like,
oh,
oh,
that's let me pick that up. A couple of mats. Here you go, 64 teams.
64 teams. Use these good stackable
Go get
5,
conditioned.
10 pound.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
For the
And then,
entire time that you're at this tournament.
and for the NCAA to initially say, oh, well, we didn't have the space, so to completely like kid out the women's gym, only to find out that wasn't true. Like it never was a function of space or lack of space. Um, which is kind of a segue into another conversation that's been had in the last week or so around inequities with regard to the NBA and WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
There was another image floating around social media um, juxtaposing Sue Bird's accomplishments to LeBron James. They've both been in the league 17 years. They both have they've both won 4 championships. I don't know that the image or the captured this, but they're both Olympians on I don't know how many times over. But where they differ, despite the similarity in accomplishments, where they differ is in wages earned.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot recall, and maybe you do, Andrea, what LeBron's, I guess what we're going to call his base salary.
I think it was like 33
Was
million.
it 30 something million? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. And Sue Bird's is a little over 200,000.
Mm-hmm.
And she earned a bonus of like, was it
It's
11,000?
like 11,000.
And do we recall what was the bonus that LeBron earned?
Oh, I don't off the top of my head. It was, I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah, but considerably more than like,
I think it was I want to say it was over like 180 or close or around like the low twos, because I think it was close to what
close to
her
her
salary.
salary.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Just,
Or it may have been more than her salary, but I think it was somewhere in that same ballpark.
yeah, I'm trying to look it up quickly, but yeah, so the conversation around that kind of disparity. I mean
Yeah.
that disparity, and granted, it's somewhat apples to oranges because the NCAA the tournament is governed by one body, right? Whereas
Right.
when you get into the professional space, you're talking about 2 different leagues governed by 2 different bodies. With the caveat being, the WNBA is kind of an extension of the NBA
Mm-hmm.
and was birthed from the NBA. So it's not as though they're these completely independent entities. I got the numbers here.
Okay.
Her salary for 2020 was 200,015. LeBron's was 37.4 million. Her bonus for winning the finals, that's what it is, was $11,356. LeBron's for winning the 2020 finals, 370,000.
Oh, I was way off. But more than her salary. Okay.
Yeah, his bonus was
Wow.
getting closer to twice her salary. So it's the
Wow.
difference between the men's tourney gym and the
Mm-hmm.
women's tourney gym. But you
Mm-hmm.
know, but granted, these are they are governed by different leagues, but the WNBA is not founded or established without the NBA.
Right.
So uh, and it comes back down to, from my view, uh, yeah, the way that they're structured from a revenue generating standpoint and sharing standpoint. Yeah, those there are issues there that make them different, and that's why NBA players get more of the pie. Uh, but just like with the men's and women's tournament in the collegiate level, there are just systemic and structural issues there. Some of them tied to how the NBA has invested in marketing the WNBA that influence the disparity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as I understand it, these women professional athletes, in soccer and basketball, aren't saying we should get paid. Well, at least on the basketball side, because I think women's soccer, they are saying we should get paid
Yeah,
the
they
same.
are saying yes.
Right, but I should be more artful with my terms. Sue Bird says we're not looking to get paid the same as LeBron James. Uh, there's just a huge disparity and an inequity in the difference in pay. Like we know we're not on that level, but we also know we're not at the level, we're worth more than the level at which we're being paid.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
215,000
yeah, yeah.
for one of the
Uh,
top players in the league who's been in the league that
been
long.
in the league that long. Yeah, yeah. So
Hmm.
this has brought up the opportunity to have a lot of constructive dialogue around these issues, and uh, how we have to have the dialogue if we're going to see progress. And so, how we use our platform here to promote that constructive dialogue, I think, is important, and provides an opportunity for us to drive and be a part of that conversation here and on our page where a lot of these conversations are occurring. So
Yeah.
um yeah, we'll continue. I'm sure we'll be teeing this up uh uh again very soon, because these issues don't go away. uh
No, and closing this type of equity gap won't happen overnight.
it won't. I mean, the problem is it's kind of too fundamental to how society has operated for thousands of years for it to go away overnight.
Right.
Um, um, Venus Williams, who's been at the forefront of promoting pay equity in tennis, which is kind of another, apples to oranges comparison, because of because they're independent contractors, essentially. She's still engaged in that, although she achieved pay equity, breaking that door down at Wimbledon, which was the last of the holdout of the Grand Slam tourneys. Like, she's still at the forefront of working on like global pay equity, because she
Mm-hmm.
realizes it's more than just an issue in tennis.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, I think this podcast gives us an opportunity, with us living at the intersection of being uh, Black and women. It gives us some perspective to talk about these things in a way, from our experiences. So I guess we'll continue to do that, 'cause that's why we're here.
Exactly. We will and we shall. And it's, I think it's, to your point, can translate not only across sports that we've seen in all the basketball, soccer, tennis, um, and the work that Venus is doing, but we see it in our respective industries. So you can take it to any
Absolutely.
industry, and
Mhm.
there's that equity gap in pay and other things. And so I think it is twofold. So it's the um, I think a big part of that is folks wanting to have a discussion about the reasons why, because it's not just solely any revenue generation or whatever the case may be. But I think too it's helpful specifically for the work that Venus is doing, but I know she's not the only one. But for us to continue to talk about it as women and empower ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
to really continue to, like speak up for what we deserve so that we can continue to push and where we're not in those types of positions yet, where we continue to be in situations where we can make those decisions and be at the table and challenge
Mm-hmm.
those who are. I think it helps continue and further the dialogue around it.
Well said, friend. I couldn't agree more. Um, Pivoting to an not a related issue, but an issue that does involve the dynamic between men and women. Uh, on the NFL side of the house, uh,
Yeah.
we have the situation with Deshaun Watson unfolding. As background, we know that he's kind of in a holdout situation. He's still, I guess Deshaun is still in his rookie. He's probably coming up on the end of his rookie contract. Is that
I think
correct or
so.
no?
I think
Yeah,
so.
but he doesn't want to play there anymore.
Right. That's the bottom line. He's done. He's done with Houston.
Irregardless of where his contract stands and how many years are left on it,
Right.
I don't want to play there anymore. And he's made that crystal clear since the season ended.
Mm-hmm.
He's made it crystal clear. He's been more vocal about it since, particularly after they decided to go in a different direction with regard to the recommended GM hire that the executive recruitment firm Korn Ferry recommended, and who was the person that Deshaun was in favor of. They went with a relative unknown who I'm not even sure was a part of the process.
Right. I don't think so either.
Um, so he was dissatisfied with that. They did not, if I'm recalling correctly, they did not interview Eric Bieniemy for the head coaching position.
I
Do you
can't,
think?
I don't think, I
I'm not
can't
sure they
remember.
did.
I'm not sure either.
And
I don't think that they did.
I don't think that they did. And I don't know that Deshaun was, if that particular candidate was a rub for him. But if I'm not mistaken, is it Robert Saleh, the coach that was hired by the Jets?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was Deshaun's preference for head coach position at Houston.
Okay.
So clearly they didn't hire him either. Um, and so he's woefully dissatisfied and has made that clear and does not want to play for them anymore. They hired like a 66-year-old, well respected, but certainly not well known black coach, assistant coach. I can't remember which organization he was with before taking. And this is his first head coaching job in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly not a candidate that was on anybody's radar screen. I'm not aware of any other team that interviewed him for their head coaching vacancy. So pointing to all these things that Deshaun has articulated as being reasons why he wants out. And Houston has made it clear that they don't intend to let him out.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of at a stalemate.
Mm-hmm.
In the last week, and certainly since you and I last talked here, a lawyer out of Houston has filed, I think as of this morning, 13 lawsuits against Deshaun Watson, in which I guess 13 different women are alleging sexual misconduct against him. To be clear, none of these are all civil matters. So nothing, he's not been criminally charged, he's not been arrested, none of those things. So this is strictly on the civil side of the house. But you have 13 women, most of whom work in the massage therapy industry,
Mm-hmm.
alleging that in these professional settings in which they've been providing services to Deshaun Watson, he's engaged in inappropriate behavior with them. This is a tough topic to talk about for so many reasons. And I know you and I are going to exercise care with how we do it, but it warrants exploring for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Um, um, we live in a country in which obviously you are to be assumed innocent before proven guilty. We live in a country in which the standard for filing a civil lawsuit, the bar is fairly low. Um, I will say that the timing of the lawsuits warrants note. Uh, the allegations could be true, and if they are, um, obviously Deshaun Watson should be held accountable in every way in which he could be held accountable, from the criminal
Mm-hmm.
side as well as the civil side.
Mm-hmm.
If he's not, then we as a country are in trouble. If he's not, and it's found that this has been conjured up as a smear campaign uh, to sully his reputation, then add this to the list of things that indicate we as a country have a lot of work to do. I don't want to go on much longer without getting your insight and your perspective on it. So let me hush and let you cook.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you said. It is a very sensitive topic. And I was kind of, while you were talking, I was just doing just did a quick search. He did sign a 4-year contract it was late last year. So he's no
Okay, so
longer,
he's
yeah.
he's in his second contract. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying that. Okay.
But I think I didn't realize the number had increased to 13. I do find it interesting that they are still civil charges right now. And the timing is interesting as well. And if I remember correctly, is the NFL now investigating? Or have I saw something, and I didn't completely read the article about,
Right.
like, something was put out there saying that they were going to initiate an investigation, but then the letter was deleted from social media, which we know that doesn't happen because somebody's going to take a screenshot
Yeah,
and
somebody
circulate it
captured
somewhere
it,
else.
right? Somebody captured it. I
Yeah.
cannot. I don't know that I like whatever I saw with regard to the NFL's response to it. I don't know that I saw anything that said that they were investigating.
Okay.
I felt like they offered a, we are aware of the situation. We have our eye on it.
Okay.
We have our eye on it. So if I were the NFL, I would be. I wouldn't yet be declaring that we are investigating. I would let a little bit more. I would let a little bit more come out. I would see where, and not that they have to see where the law enforcement goes with it. But I'd give it a little bit more time. I'd be monitoring it, and then based on where it is within a certain amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
then I might launch an investigation. I mean,
Yeah.
one reason I would not at this moment launch is because the lawsuits seems to still be coming.
Right. Right.
Um, so yeah, but it sounds as though the NFL is keeping an eye on it.
Okay.
I haven't read all the lawsuits. I do know, or did hear yesterday, that the most one of the lawsuit alleges conduct that happened as recently as March 5th of this year.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read them all either, and just the couple things that or articles I've read about it, it's just been capturing, and I didn't associate or attach dates to, when these specific incidents happened, but just detailing out, the accounts of a couple of the women in these um, massage therapy appointments, and how, they're recounting their interactions with Deshaun. But I
Mhm.
don't, in that article, recall saying a date, so I didn't know that they were that recent.
Yes,
Um,
it's that
okay.
recent. So according, if the allegations are true, then in the midst of being in a battle with his team, a very public battle with his team about not wanting to play with them anymore, uh, and having the scrutiny and the light the limelight on him in this particular moment, he's been engaging in this egregious behavior.
Okay.
And at least one of the allegations goes back to like last summer of 2020. But I have not, like I said, I've not done an exhaustive review of all 13 complaints to see like when the alleged behavior started and how, we know that it's alleged to have gone up through at least March 5th,
Mm.
2021.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know the time scope we're talking about here.
Right. And like you said, there may be more, so
There may
that
be
can
more, so
go.
it's kind of a wait and see approach. I more know Alabama law than I do uh, uh, Texas law, but statute of limitations would apply, and for charges like this in Alabama, it would be 2, maybe up to 3 years statute
Okay.
of limitations. Uh, so for a civil suit, for a
Right.
civil suit.
Right. Because it is just, they are civil charges
Like
right
these are,
now.
yeah, I want to be very clear that these are all civil. Uh, um, and again, the process for filing a civil suit uh, is less different. It is different, is materially different from the process engaged for a criminal charge being filed against you. It's less rigorous
Right.
a
Right.
process.
Right.
I would never do it, friend, but I could go down to the federal courthouse right now and file a suit against you. I would never do it. Yeah, I know, right? But that's my
Yeah.
point is
It's like,
like
well, yeah.
what I do.
Well, no, that's helpful with the
That's
perspective. Yeah.
that's
It's like, well,
I can see you right now.
like,
No,
oh.
but no, just to give some perspective on, whereas if I were in a situation in which I were assaulted and wanted to pursue criminal charges, that it wouldn't be as easy as going down. It would start with the filing of a police report, but then there's a much more extensive process
Mm-hmm.
before a charge gets filed.
Right.
So, um, yeah. So I guess, taking a wait and see approach, it, you know, as far as saying any more on it is what makes sense. We can say that if this would be new behavior for Deshaun Watson, he has not been known to engage in any behavior like this or any behavior that wasn't law abiding. Frankly, if anything, his
Right.
reputation as being one of like stellar citizen and philanthropist. So um, this would be inconsistent with observed behavior of him to this point.
Mm-hmm.
That said, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Because it's like, we don't know him, and you never know what people
and
may
you
do or what they're capable of.
and you never know. I mean, who'd have if you had told America 35 years ago that Bill Cosby would spend the his twilight years in jail for sexually assaulting women,
Yeah.
nobody would have believed, like nobody would have believed you.
Right. Yeah.
nobody would have
Right.
believed you.
Right. So yeah, the same with Deshaun, like of all
Yeah. So
again, that's not observed behavior. It's nothing but yeah, it is a very much wait and see and I guess see
right.
how many additional women may come forward.
Yeah. And and who is it that's coming forward? We don't know that. It is tragic to have to note, but it does warrant noting. Race matters in this country, and
Mhm.
there is a noted historical trend of uh, Black men being accused of assaults that didn't happen.
Right.
And I'm not suggesting that's the case here, but what I am stating, because it's true, is that there's the history of it.
Mhm.
Uh, and that has to be noted.
Right. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
again, trying to take a measured, balanced, but but historically accurate approach to how to dissect all of this. It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, uh, yeah. And if the NFL, if it does get to a point where it triggers an investigation by the NFL, it'll be interesting to see how they handle it,
Mhm.
especially given how they have historically handled similar allegations uh, or allegations involving criminal charges. As I recall, was the case with Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah. Forgotten about that. Well, actually, no, I hadn't.
Okay.
Well, no, I hadn't
No, I
really.
remember that. I
Like,
remember
no,
that.
I don't remember what I forgotten is when, like, the year that all of that occurred. But no, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it does get handled differently for different players in the
It
NFL.
does. It does. And so, and as my background in employment law, I'm always thinking about like comparators
Mhm.
and trends and precedent, and how did the organization handle it when when a similar issue arose before. So yeah, it'll just be interesting to observe how this kind of unfolds. Obviously, with a civil complaint, you have so many days to file an answer. I don't know what that is for under Texas state law.
Right.
Uh, I'm not mistaken here. It's either 30 or 45 days. It's been a minute since your girl has had to know these things.
That's okay.
Uh, but yeah, it's a matter of, it's at least a month before uh, an answer would be due. Uh,
So that answer would be, so here is, well, not what it would be. I guess my question is, so here attorney, I am bringing forward, there are these women who have filed there's a civil suit against you person, and then from the time
excuse me.
of like now I'm really testing the law. This has nothing to do with Deshaun.
No, no, no. Keep cooking. What's your question?
I guess I'm just trying to get the
But
timing of when, from what point is a response due for Alabama? And I get we're not talking Texas, but so if that's a formal, I have gone to the court through my attorney to say this is whatever
yeah,
this answer is.
yeah. So
Okay.
the complaint lays out like the allegation, essentially the allegations. Um, like and it's with specificity, like on this occasion, and on this occasion, and for each incident, there would be and I guess well, for each claim there are specifics, and you might have a claim for sexual assault or whatever, and there might be for and then within that particular section of the complaint, it'll lay out every instance of alleged sexual assault.
Okay.
And so in the answer, you would deny, offer, a denial of all the claims. And then also in the answer, in order to assert a defense, you have to articulate it in your answer. So
Gotcha.
here are the affirmative defenses to these claims. That's what you assert that in your answer in order to be able to maintain them throughout the proceeding.
Okay.
So I didn't do it, and here are the defenses that I'm going to reference in my innocence. So that's basically what an answer is.
Okay. So yeah, I guess we'll see whatever Texas law with the timing of when he would need to provide that, I guess, through his
Yeah.
attorney, when
And
that would happen.
where you really get into the nuts and bolts of finding out the real deal, so to speak, is in discovery, where
Okay.
depositions are taken, requests for production of information or documentation. The attorney for the claimant, I think, has said he's going to file some affidavits like sometime this week. So
Okay.
before discovery even. So we'll likely have a sense of more of the specific allegations through those affidavits.
Okay.
So it's something for us to keep our eyes on for sure.
Definitely. Definitely.
And I'm sure
So
that, I'm sure there's other stuff going on in the NFL where, I mean, in the NBA, we're in draft season and they have announced that they're going to go full on in person
for the draft.
in Cleveland. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, whew, child.
Why not? Just go for it.
Yeah, I think I heard a statistic earlier today that said that a third of our population has gotten the COVID vaccine, and I don't know if that means have had are fully inoculated, which I would doubt. We're at 30% for fully
Yeah.
inoculated. I feel like that definition of have had the vaccine means they've had at least one shot,
Right. Yeah.
which
I could. Yeah.
sounds about right. But we don't get to herd immunity until 70 to 80% of the population has either I guess had COVID or has gotten the
Or
vaccine.
vaccine.
And we have a lot of people who are refusing to get the vaccine. So herd immunity is going to be, and without those people, I'm told it's going to be hard to get the herd immunity. So for a mass event, granted, some of it outside, I guess, I don't know how much of it is outside or inside. But for a mass event on that level in like late April, early May, just less up.
Yeah.
Let's all the way up. So NBA, we're
What's
coming.
happening over in the NBA?
That's a great question. I know that the season, if I'm not mistaken, the season is like it's not going to be as long this year. Is that, or am I making, is that, have I just completely made that up on the spot?
I don't
I
know.
thought that the season wasn't supposed to be as long, but maybe that's incorrect. Regardless, LeBron has a high ankle sprain that has him out at least for a few weeks, if not
Mm-hmm.
longer. The Lakers are currently standing third in the West.
They are.
So I don't know that this, LeBron's absence will likely, and I don't know how spread out they are in the standings or whatever. I think, obviously I think the Lakers make the playoffs. I don't think his injury dooms them to fall, smooth from 3 to below 8. But
Is
yeah, it's cause
but
for concern for sure.
yeah, it is. So I did it. You're right. There's 72 games this season. They did shorten it by 10. But is AD still out?
You know what? He may be.
And I don't recall why he's
and
what.
if AD is still out, they may be in trouble.
But you're right. But it depends. So they could slide, but I
They
don't
can
know.
slide, but I don't know if they slide completely out of the
Yeah,
playoff picture.
yeah. Because I don't know where. I feel like the top 3 to 5 teams are fairly clustered together. Maybe 4 games or something separate them. But I
Yeah.
don't know where that break is, where it's just like you're just playing to finish the season.
Right.
You doesn't matter what happens here because
you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. So we'll
So maybe. they could slide some, but probably not all the way out of contention for the playoffs.
And did you note that did I hear you say earlier that the Warriors, are they at 9? Are they knocking on
They are at 9. They are knocking at
Dallas?
yes. It's a it's a
Yeah,
little knock.
just a little knock. Is it? I mean, are they? It's not a big
Yes,
knock.
it's a knock. So I still have the standings pulled up. They are they're a game out of the 8th spot.
Okay, so yeah, it's a decent knock. Yeah,
Hmm.
they're in the hunt for sure.
They're in the hunt.
Okay, okay.
They're in the hunt.
At least they're in the hunt, and we're hoping that Steph, who suffered uh, an injury, like literally fell on his tailbone the other day, hoping he's back on the court as soon as he's feeling he can be. I hear those injuries are tricky and are kind of hard to heal, and can kind of be good and then deteriorate again, and then so you can have this kind of ebb and flow. But I like Steph, so I'm rooting for him and hoping he can feel up to playing again soon.
I
So
know.
on the East side, we got the Sixers in the number 1 spot,
Yeah, who knew?
and
I totally didn't know.
I knew Embiid was having a season.
Oh, okay.
I did know that, but I think Embiid is injured.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, he got
Okay.
injured last. I mean, there've been a lot of injuries in the
I
last
see.
week.
That's why I feel like everybody I've heard about is injured.
Yeah,
So like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
and your Hawks are at 5. Well, I'm calling them your Hawks. Your Hawks are at 5. Uh,
Yeah.
no surprise about Brooklyn. No surprise about Milwaukee. No surprise about Miami. Charlotte's at 6, but LaMelo just fractured his wrist and is out the rest of the season, and he's been the standout. So, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that they can hang on. I don't know what they're at 6. The Knickerbockers are at 7,
Knickerbockers.
and the Celtics are at 8. And I don't know what the spread is between them, how close they are to one another. But it's an interesting, there's some interesting things going on in the East. I was reading an article the other day about how, and it's not a new premise, but how this whole super team, not only are super teams dominating how teams are structured now, geographically, super teams are either on the East or West Coast, which is really kind of squeezing these small market teams tremendously. And, is the question being, is that good for the league? We've always had the question of whether the super team is a good thing, but when the love isn't spread as far as where they're going, where they're deciding to go,
Right.
is that good for the league long term?
Yeah, like when you had the big three who wasn't really, a known big three at the time, but Oklahoma City, like the Thunder hadn't really been the same since Durant, Westbrook, and Harden left.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then I don't know where the Cavs are.
Who?
Right.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
God, yeah. So I totally get it because it doesn't seem like any duo or trio team up to go, um,
to
like
the Pacers
Memphis or to the
to
yeah.
Memphis. Yeah, yeah, it's not happening. It's not
Yeah.
happening.
It's a Miami, it's a somewhere
Mhm.
in the New York market or on the
It's
West Coast,
on
it's
West Coast.
LA. Yep.
Yep, yep, and really, the first big three, in my view, was that was intentional about bringing kind of veterans together would have been Pierce, Garnett, and Allen, Ray Allen.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean, and that was considered like, wow, bringing 3 big talents together on the same team, and but yes, that dynamic has definitely changed now, and players are more like have more of that empowerment spirit about them, where they're like kind of conspiring to move together.
Mm-hmm.
The first evidence of that really being, LeBron and Bosh joining D Wade. So yes, it's a good question. I don't know how I feel about. I feel pretty old school about these things. Like, who was it that? KD, you foolish boy. KD,
Oh.
KD's comment that, well, we got this whole like join together thing, love one another thing from like the players of the '80s. Like that's where that brotherhood started.
Yeah, we were
Have you
like,
seen the
no,
footage?
right.
Like,
Like there's plenty of 30 for 30s out there where in the last dance and all of where that's clearly contrary to what
clearly
he thinks.
contrary. Yeah, Magic and Zeke kiss one another on the cheeks, and then Magic put him down to the ground with a strong.
Right. Because that's what the
That's
80s
how they got
Lakers and
down.
that's
But
how
and
you
they were
treated the bad boys.
Magic and Zeke before their relationship fell apart. They were considered an anomaly in how close they were in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Uh, and Magic and Bird grew to respect each other and did become friends, but there was a point where they couldn't stand each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about Kurt Rambis and Lambeer,
Right.
the goons.
Right. Like they were not singing
They
Kumbaya
were
around
not. It
the
wasn't about
at
brother.
half court.
The brotherhood was within within your team,
Exactly.
and you rocked with one team your whole situation,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how deep the brotherhood was.
Right. Because it's like Michael Jordan's not going to play for LA for the Lakers.
Right.
Like that's not happening. So yeah, I don't know what he was
I don't know
thinking
what
when he
KD,
made that statement.
what history KD was referring when he
I'm not
attributed
sure.
today's spirit to the groundwork laid in the '80s. Yeah. Yeah.
I
So,
don't know.
oh, these kids, so much to learn.
Tell you.
So we're coming up towards the end of we've almost gone an hour this time, friend, but we're coming up on the hour, and it seems appropriate to tip the hat this time to um, the women playing in San Antonio. Maria
Yeah.
Taylor did this awesome, posted this awesome video on IG, just loving on them and encouraging them. I'll have to try to share it to our site. But yeah, just you all stay there, doing well and doing what you're supposed to do. Keep pushing through, kind of regardless of what little you have. You're making it happen in spite of what little you have.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something to be said for making something out of nothing.
Absolutely.
It's easy to make something out of something. So know that we appreciate what you do and are encouraging you. My personal point of bias, like I am specifically most encouraging the Lady Gamecocks of South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. That's fair, friend.
but philosophically, I'm encouraging all of you.
Yes. Oh.
Anything you have to close us out, friend?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. I think we'll see how the rest of these games play out. And we'll be back in a couple weeks to talk some more.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the meantime, we want to thank you all again for rocking with us. Check us out on primarily we rock on Facebook, Black Girls Vibe Tribe. Come hit us up, ask us to join, and we'll let you in, and you can be a part of these discussions between the podcasts. In the meantime, take care, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.